BPB's 2017 NAMM show coverage is sponsored by Plugin Boutique, the place for music plugins.
Hi, I'm Greg Undo with Steinberg. We're here at the 2017 NAMM show. Let's take a quick look at Cubase Pro 9, a really exciting release. So one of the things that we wanted to do with Cubase Pro 9 is to make it easier for people using single window systems. So we have now a clear delineation between different zones. So I have my inspector zone, an edit zone, my project zone, and my media zone. And I can hit my tab key to toggle back and forth. And this is really, and we see the white outline. So if I just wanted to zoom on this particular zone, I could hit Shift Tab to go back. Now I could zoom just on my edit zone independently of the project window. Now, as we want to work with this, we could also hide these zones like Alt-Control-L to hide my left zone, or my right zone, Alt-Control-R. We also have added a dedicated transport, so at the bottom, so it's not a floating transport screen, and Alt-Control-E for my edit zone. Now, within the different zones, you could also navigate, because my edit zone has not only where I can see my mixer that's docked, but I could also switch between different parts that are visible and playing right here. Or if I wanted to look at different elements like my chord pads, I could just come directly here and quickly navigate with Alt Control and left and right arrows. Now, one of the things that we want to do is to make it even simpler is, in using these zones, is we can see that we have our mix console here. So if I wanted to see stuff like my inserts or my send effects, at this point we could just click on these little buttons here to see those different components. If I want to see my inspector tab, and we could just navigate quickly. Now, one of the things that people wanted a lot for Cubase for a long time is an undo history in the mixer. So let's say I'm just messing around and I totally have now screwed up my mix. I could actually just have unlimited levels of undo and redo within my mix console. So you never have to make a decision. It's beautiful. Now, each of these zones allows us to go directly to a full screen window by clicking on the little arrow that points like upwards to the right. And now this is an independent window. And there's preferences where if you hit double click and go into the lower zone, hit it with the keyboard shortcut to open the editor, that it could be placed directly into full screen. Now, once we're here, let's say I opened up a particular track. At this point, I could just say, I can see a new tab here for edit history. So I'm going to open up a particular channel here. I want to adjust my volume. And as I do that, I adjust the panning. I adjust my EQ. I want to turn my phase on. I want to add more gain, low cut, high cut filter. Let's come over here and let's go to my channel strip. So if I want to see my channel strip here, I could just say let's adjust all, and every time that I make an adjustment to any single parameter here, it's just automatically being implemented directly into our mix console. I wanted to open up insert plugin, whether it's third party or an included plugin. We could just say, let's just come here. I wanted to have my noise gate, and let's adjust that. So now I could just simply scroll back through all of my different mix decisions right there and go back to square one. So if you've made a mistake, it's very, very easy to fix. Now, in doing the editing with the zones, what's really great about it is we could have different levels of scrolling. So we could have independent scrolling from my main project window as well. So if I'm here, I could actually see stuff like, okay, I want to look at my bass part, and let's say as we're playing, I could have this where this edit scroll is constantly updating. So I don't have to leave my visual focus from the center, but I can still do my editing. Now, whatever I select, I could actually just look at, and if I wanted to see this in my piano key roll editor, I could just kind of click right there. And if I wanted to see this as notation or drum editor, it's very easy to just kind of have those different editor views. And again, I just toggle back up. I'm in full screen view. Toggle back down to the lower zone so you can get stuff done very quickly without having to worry about so much window management constantly going on. Now, one of the features that people had wanted for a long time was the ability of having a sampler. And we wanted to kind of merge the worlds of digital audio for production tracks and samples, where now, like I say, I want to take just an audio file here. So say I want to take just the sound. So I can take that sound and just drag and drop it directly into a sampler track. So at this point, we'll just make this a little taller. I can just trigger my different samples directly from Let's say I want to set up a glide. I could come right here and just say, do stuff like that. We also have full filtering, so different types of filters. So you want a classic filter. We could also just adjust the pitch if you wanted to do that. Different options for looping, one-shot modes. Now what's really interesting is how this integrates directly with Cubase. So let's say I wanted to come here to my main window here, and I could actually say, okay, I want to select that, and then go to my edit zone. And I could just say, okay, I want to take this, and let's say we have a little bit of a vocal part. I could select just a range of the vocal. And as we do that, I can now just go to my range here, my sample editor, and say, let's create a sampler track based on that. And now I'm just playing. And then I could just trigger that as audio directly right there. Now let's say I go down lower. It's obviously much slower. So if I just put on audio warp, I could synchronize it to the project tempo. So whatever pitch it is, it's just automatically playing back. Now, this also could play in very creative uses of chord tracks. So I could say, let's take an interesting chord here, and you could just trigger it just right there and listen to different chord ideas. So again, you could just start playing stuff, and it's automatically created the track, armed it for recording. So anytime that you want to take any audio from your project window, we could go directly to our sampler track and say, you know what, that's a really cool part. This guy gave me this amazing guitar part. Let me just take that, drag it in. And then I'm able to pick and choose my start and end positions directly here and be able to do all my different sample editing and be able to manipulate it in a really interesting way. Now, one of the new plugins, and there's a lot of new plugin GUIs, but one of the great new plugins that's included is one called Frequency. And Frequency is an EQ, but it's an incredibly musical EQ. And the beautiful part of this is most EQs give you the frequencies, but you have no idea what notes they're actually dealing with. So if I grab frequency 3 here, we see a piano keyboard. So if I know I'm in the key of G, that's probably a good EQ frequency to work with. And I could actually just see a direct visual representation of what's going on with the note that's being used by that particular frequency. Now, on the outer bands, we could have 96 dB of gain or cut. But what's interesting is, so it's fully parametric, and each of these parametric bands will have different colors. So you can clearly delineate the different bands from each other. Each band is linear phase. So that's 8 linear phase EQs within one plugin. Now, what's really slick about it is I could go, okay, I want to go to my EQ3. And when we think of stereo EQ, I could EQ the stereo channels independently. And we could also think of stereo as being left or right, or stereo as being kind of in the center or on the sides. So if I wanted to take EQ3, I could put that into my left-right. And at this point, I could take one band and EQ the left channel and right channel independently. If I wanted to take band 5, what's interesting about this is you could also say, let's just have the mid and side. So I want to EQ the middle, add a little more mid-range, and I want to make the sides, the left and right edges, I want to make those brighter. And what's really cool is you could just simply have that level of control over 8 bands of EQ. Now, one of the great things is there's also different display. So let's say if I want to actually see what frequencies are going on, at this point I can see visually on either a spectrograph or my bars here. But if we're doing a lot of stuff like filtering, there's this auto listen mode. So as soon as I adjust one band, I only hear that particular frequency that it's editing. So if I'm trying to filter out a specific thing, I could just hear what I'm filtering out. And as soon as I let go of the mouse, I don't hear anything else. Just like that. So incredibly fast and easy to do that. Now, one of the things that's been added, and we'll just open up a new project, is the ability of people have always wanted more marker tracks because people want to have different cycle markers, like if we're working on a game audio project that's non-linear, or if we also want to say, okay, I just wanted to have different markers, like maybe a live concert performance or classical movement. with different movements for a classical piece. But now we can have up to 10 different marker tracks. So I could have one for, these are where I want to do string edits or pitch correction. So you could just simply navigate quickly between these different marker tracks. And you could make and choose which is the active marker track, so you could use your standard key commands to do that. But let's say I have a piece like a live concert and I have 12 recordings, 12 songs within one recording, and I've set up my cycle markers. We thought it'd be cool when you do your export audio mix down that we could just come here and we could now export the cycle markers as individual files. So one of the things that was the genesis of Cubase Pro 9 was a user survey, and Steinberg actually just simply asked our customers what they wanted to do, what they wanted to include in the next version of Cubase. And they said, we want better window management. We delivered that. They said, we want mixer undo. We delivered that. One of the other feature requests was plug and play for USB MIDI interfaces on Windows. We delivered that. We also wanted to have the ability of a sampler. So instead of just doing a sampler as a Me Too option, we wanted to have a really high level of integration and merging the paradigms between digital audio and samples so that you could have the sampler track. We wanted to be able to deliver more marker tracks and really innovative high quality plugins like frequency. So as you can see, Cubase Pro 9 is a perfect addition to your production needs.